A very warm welcome to IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. I'm Ritwika Gupta, and today we'll be talking leadership, strategy and technology. In the first segment, I'll be in conversation with best-selling author, board advisor and Fortune 100 company consultant, Tony Saldhana. In the second segment, my colleague Rohan Richard will be chatting with the CEO and co-founder of AgTech company, Cropin, Krishna Kumar. I'm now joined live by Tony Saldhana. Thank you so much, Tony, for being with us on the show today.
My pleasure, Ritwika.
So, Tony, you're a best-selling author. You come with deep operational GBS and IT expertise, and you've been vocal about creating an actionable roadmap for building evolving business processes. Today on the show, we are largely talking tech. So my first question to you is, how can businesses proactively adapt to the rapidly changing technological landscape to not only stay competitive, but also maintain a sustained advantage in the face of evolving customer preferences and emerging market dynamics?
That's a great question, Ritwika. There are two things that businesses really need to do, and more importantly, do it really quickly. Firstly, they have to understand that we're in the midst of an industrial revolution, the fourth industrial revolution. And all of the things that made us successful in the previous era, the third industrial revolution, are not sufficient for companies to thrive in the fourth industrial revolution. Specifically, set goals that will make you competitive using technology in the fourth industrial revolution. That goal setting aspect is incredibly important. This is not about continuous improvement. This is not about upgrading your technology. This is not about getting the next 5 to 10%. It's about thinking discontinuously for competitive advantage. So yes, you do have to upgrade your technology like you do every year. But in addition to that, you also have to think about disruptive new business models, because that's what it takes to survive and thrive in a new industrial era.
Tony, in your book, Revolutionizing Business Operations, which I've had the privilege of also reading, you have had some interesting insights here. You very interestingly talk about building a competitive advantage for entrepreneurs starting their own businesses. What are some practical steps they can take to create agile, adaptable processes from the outset?
Most businesses historically have believed that running the company such that you deliver great products and thinking about operations as the cost of running business has been sufficient. And that is true. It has been sufficient in the prior industrial era. Today, the best companies in the world, whether they're Apple or Amazon or Procter and Gamble, they realize that great products only account for 2/3 of your engine power. The other is, comparative advantage that you can get from your internal operations, like supply chain, like IT, like finance, and so on and so forth. So my recommendation to small, medium, and even large enterprises, if they're starting from scratch, leverage 100% of your engine power. The way you do that is don't think of your internal functions as having to be just efficient, right? They're not just a cost of running the business. They are a source of competitive advantage. The second thing you have to do is don't allow those operations to get into the mindset of a functional or bureaucratic mindset where they tell the rest of the company what to do. No, think of them as if they were independent companies. They have to thrive and survive as if they played in the open market. The third thing is drive accountability. Just because you work for finance or supply chain doesn't mean that your accountability is only for finance or supply chain. Drive end-to-end accountability. Companies that have the opportunity to do it right the first time startups, small enterprises really need to keep some of those in mind as they design for the future.
Your earlier book, Why Digital Transformations Fail, released in 2019. It received acclaim for its insights. Can you highlight one key factor that you believe is often overlooked or perhaps underestimated in the context of digital transformations? And how can organizations address it effectively?
Digital transformation or business transformation in general is the buzzword. It is actually an industry worth $1.7 trillion globally. And this is shocking, 70% of all digital transformations fail to achieve their objectives. It is really shocking. Now, among all of those failures, 90% of all of them relate to organization change. If you think about it, that's not surprising, because when you're talking about digital transformation, you're not talking about incremental change. You are talking about restructuring or reimagining the way you run your supply chain or your manufacturing or your sales or marketing. That's a lot of change for organizations to handle. So the one thing I would advise organizations is to kind of think about digital transformation, not about technology transformation. I would have them think about this as a business model and an operating model transformation. And in that context is where you have to apply digital technologies as a tool.
Wonderful. Tony, you spent 27 years at Procter & Gamble. I'm keen to understand, what can managers at smaller, medium-sized businesses learn from unbeatable global giants like P&G, Amazon, Apple about running business operations?
I think first and foremost, what companies can learn from those companies like Procter & Gamble and Apple and Amazon that you mentioned is that, you have to design your internal processes for the long haul. The challenge in most companies is that they think of business transformation or even digital transformation in terms of episodic change, right? So a big transformation program where you're going to maybe modernize your supply chain or modernize your IT stack or, change the way you sell using artificial intelligence. The problem is that episodic changes like that come with a big risk. In between your episodic transformations, if something happens, you are caught flat-footed. So let me use the great COVID-19 example. When COVID-19 struck, companies that were, best positioned to leverage that had ongoing agility of their internal operations. Again, like finance and supply chain and sales and so on and so forth. Companies that had upgraded their supply chain perhaps, 2 or 3 years ago, probably were not up to date when disaster struck. And so the one thing I think, the world needs to learn from resilient companies like Apple or Procter & Gamble is that these companies are designed for constant evolution. It is that agility that makes them long-lasting. Procter & Gamble has been around for more than 180 years. I think the key is resilience and agility, constant change, not just episodic change.
Now, finally, before I let you go, I want to talk about leadership, especially because our show is watched by a lot of leaders of tomorrow. Now, leadership plays a crucial role in driving successful transformations. Based on your experience, what are the key attributes or practices that effective leaders, should possess or do, when leading organizations through disruptive change? And how can they really develop these qualities?
The definition of what makes for a great leader is evolving, even as the world around us is evolving. It used to be that the traditional definitions of a leader, and I talk about some of this in my book, Revolutionizing Business Operations. It used to be, much more about, the envision, enable, energize the organization. And that is certainly still true. But to win in the new world, there has to be a complementary to the envision, enable, energize with ecosystems by using the capability to essentially influence not just challenged by goal setting and by motivating. That capability of ecosystems and, of course, also in using your soft skills, your influence skills to drive change is really important. No company in today's world is an island. No leader can say, hey, I'm going to be the best in the world by just, using the resources that are under my direct control and influence. So, my advice to the future leaders of tomorrow is, of course, build a strong foundation in the traditional envision, enable, energize, but then please don't stop there, right? You have to manage through influence, through your soft power. You have to leverage ecosystems. That's what it takes to be successful in the future.
Wonderful. It was lovely chatting with you, Tony. Thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure. It was really nice chatting with you, Ritwika.
On that note, we'll take a quick break here. Back in just a moment. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. Now, before proceeding to the next conversation, I want to take a moment to tell you about Brand Search, a new initiative by Times Network, an opportunity for startups to be on TV without a TVC that can help you reach up to 25 crore viewers of Times Network through packages starting at only 1 lakh rupees. For more information, log on to brandsearch.co.in. On that note, let's quickly move on to the next segment, Rohan Richard in conversation with Krishna Kumar, founder and CEO, Cropin.
Thank you, Ritwika. Now, Cropin is a global leader in ag ecosystem intelligence. Their suite of products empowers stakeholders in agriculture, including financial service providers, to embrace and propel digital strategies throughout their operations. They assist organizations in digitizing their processes from farm to fork, utilizing real-time farm data for informed decision-making. With partnerships spanning 250-plus organizations worldwide, they have digitized 16 million acres of farmland, benefiting nearly 7 million farmers across 92 countries. Cropin solutions applicable to any crop and geolocation are offered in a user-friendly plug-and-play model. Today, I'll be in conversation with the founder and CEO of Cropin, Krishna Kumar, and gather from him how the company is elevating India's AgTech sector. Thank you so much for joining us, Krishna. It's a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you, Rohan.
Krishna, can you provide an overview of Cropin's journey since its inception, including key milestones, growth figures, and the number of clients or users you have served to date?
Sure. Cropin started back in 2010, and it has been a 13-year journey, long journey for us. When we started, this agriculture sector was not using any technology, right? So you would have seen mechanization and more innovation on the seed side, but not on the digital side. And the whole idea of Cropin was to bring data intelligence to agriculture. That's the premise we started. We basically phased this out into 4 parts. The first part, as I was just telling you, defining the SOP for this industry. The second was, once we saw the surge of the data, how the customers, the growers, the agronomists can use this data to their advantage, right? And minimize the risk at the farm or take decisions which is going to impact the yield or quality at the farm, and also secure the income of the farmer, right? At the same time. So, we started building those interfaces, communication modules, BI on top of it. And then the third phase was more on, how do we bring, intelligence to the forefront, right? So how do we use machine learning and AI? And by the time we have, spent 5-6 years, helping our nation to adopt digital transformation in their agriculture journey. That brought a lot of data on the platform, right? From what crop is growing, what variety, how is the practices has been followed or not, what is the yield, what disease attack happened on those farms, right? So a lot of data came onto the platform, and then we set up this Cropin AI lab to take this journey that how can we become more predictive and prescriptive for our customers to take better decisions.
Now, agriculture has long been a critical sector in India. How has Cropin harnessed technology to drive innovation in the space, and what specific challenges within the agriculture sector do your solutions address?
If you look at the agriculture sector, there are many complex challenges, right? There's a lot of uncertainty which farmer goes with. Even he puts the seeds today, but he doesn't know whether he will get a better harvest or not, because there are so many variables which can impact his crop, right from climate to pest and disease, and then various other seed failures and other stuff. So there are a few pillars we have chosen to work alongside with this industry, right? One is how do we bring digital transparency within this ecosystem? How can we connect all the farms on a digital network so that we understand what is happening on those farms? So bringing more traceability, more transparency to this ecosystem. Second is climate adaptation in agriculture. So with the changing climate, there's a lot of pressure is getting built on the farms in terms of pest and disease, or irregular weather and calamities which is happening during the season, which impacts the crop and the quality as well. And then it finally impacts the yield, right? So how do we solve for that? How do you solve for supply and demand of food security of a nation? How do you build more resilient food ecosystem within a country so that you solve for major crops and build the resilience in the whole supply chain?
Data is crucial in agriculture. Could you elaborate on the types of data your platform collects and analyzes? Additionally, how does this data contribute to decision making in the agricultural value chain?
I think once you bring this data on a digital format, you can open up a different kind of solutioning on top of it, right? Which will propagate to the right time, to the right people for right decision making. We realize over a period of time, and we define the SOP, that what kind of a data you need from the farm, what kind of a data you need to take as an observation when the season is progressing, right? So there are images, there are crop and variety, there are geotags or boundaries of it, incidences which are happening on the farm, right? So also all kind of a data which has to be ground observed, which comes under the platform. Then we also bring all the weather related data and environmental related data on the platform. Then the third piece is earth observation, right? So how do you connect all the satellite pipelines, which is the optical images of those farms at a various frequency and various resolution? How do you combine that and keep it ready as a for the insight ready or machine learning data, right? So for every farm, you'll see there are tons of data getting generated every day. Today, we are computing around intelligence on 0.2 billion hectares globally for our customers and helping them in various ways, right? So predicting the yield in advance, or pest and disease, which can happen in next 7 days, or any weather vagaries we predict. It goes to the farmer that next morning there could be a frost and you should be taking this precautions on your crops, right? So it's very, very important for for agriculture to have these data sets and build intelligence which can be shared across the ecosystem.
Krishna, talk to us about Cropin's collaboration with government agencies and NGOs, and on how these partnerships have furthered your mission and expanded your reach into rural and underserved areas.
We are working with the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, where they have to underwrite the risk on the farm and make the payout faster to the farmers when the crop fails. And we provide, using our AI/ML platform, we provide intelligence at the gram panchayat level, like what is the crop and what is the health and what is the benchmark yield they can expect, so that once the yield falls below the benchmark, the farmers get paid, and if it is above the benchmark, the crop is doing well, so they do not need to be paid. Now, this is saving a lot of cost for the government, because in a season you are doing 10 million crop cutting experiment within two months of window, which is very, very difficult, and the challenges of gathering this data from the field. But if you can use this using remote sensing and machine learning or AI capabilities, you can scale this solution, and you can probably make a decision in a week's time that which gram panchayat need to be paid from the insurance point of view, right? So we are accelerating that process for the government, and also it saves 50% of the cost, right? So one of the tasks was, can we reduce the crop cutting experiment, which is manual in nature, and government has to pay for that? Can it be reduced by 40% by using such kind of a technology?
Krishna, please provide insights into Cropin's presence in other countries, the scale of operations, and how your solutions cater to diverse international markets.
Sure. So today, our product is getting used in 92 countries. And we started with India. We built this product for India, from India for the world. And once we solved the problem, we tested the solution in India, scaled it out, and then it naturally went into Southeast Asia, then African countries, then Europe, and now LATAM and US as well, right? So while we are solving for smallholder farmers, but it is also getting used because the same intelligence is required by the developed countries as well on those farms. And we have been successfully deploying that at a very, very large scale in those countries. So we manage around 500 crops, 10,000 varieties of those crops in these 92 countries. We would have digitized 30 million acres with our customers and partners, and we have computed 0.2 billion acres of intelligence for them from the scale point of view.
How does Cropin envision the future of agriculture in India and globally? What's next on the horizon for the company?
It's important that we are very, very focused on solving for, how do you help them to build this, resilient system, food system, and how do we give intelligence to this ecosystem so that they can improve the per acre value from every farm, whether it's a farm unit level or whether it's a country scale, and different users will have a very different need to make those decisions. And we want to be at the forefront to provide that intelligence and the technology which they need to accelerate the pace of innovation in this sector. Our vision is to put intelligence on every farm and make every farm traceable, predictable and sustainable as well. So that's how I'll put it.
Krishna, we truly appreciate your presence with us. It has been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Rohan. Thanks a lot.
With that, it's a wrap on this episode of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. We hope you enjoyed the conversations. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.